She thought she was just another settler's daughter living on the edge of danger. But when the Comanche came, her world turned upside down. What happened next would change not only her life, but also everything she believed about freedom, survival, and belonging. Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you liked the story and where you're watching from and why you're following this. The scorching Texas sun beat down mercilessly on the small settlement of Willow Creek in the summer of 1868. Sarah Bennett wiped sweat from her brow as she hung laundry behind her family's modest cabin at the edge of town. At 22, with honey blonde hair and determined blue eyes, she had come west with her father following her mother's death 3 years prior. Life on the frontier was hard but honest, and Sarah had grown to appreciate the rugged beauty of the land, despite its dangers. "Sarah, come inside soon. Your father will be back before nightfall," called Martha, the wife of the local shopkeeper who often looked after Sarah when her father made his trips into Austin for supplies. "Just a few more minutes," Sarah replied, pinning the last sheet to the line. She paused, gazing toward the distant hills where the territory of the Comanche Nation began. Tales of raids kept the settlers vigilant, especially after the massacre at the Johnson homestead last spring. Sarah's father, William Bennett, had insisted on teaching her to shoot and ride like any man. "A woman alone must be able to defend herself in these parts," he'd told her repeatedly. As Sarah gathered her empty basket, a flicker of movement caught her eye at the tree line. She froze, straining to see. Nothing. Perhaps just a deer, she thought, but her heart quickened nonetheless. The settlers had enjoyed 6 months of relative peace, but everyone knew it was tenuous at best. That evening, as lanterns were lit across Willow Creek, William Bennett did not return. Sarah paced anxiously before the cabin window while Martha tried to reassure her. "Your father's a capable man. Likely he's just delayed or decided to wait till morning to travel." But Sarah knew her father would never willingly spend a night away without sending word. Something was wrong. Sleep evaded her that night, as wind whistled through the cabin walls and distant coyotes howled under a waxing moon. Dawn broke with no sign of William. Sarah dressed quickly and headed to the town marshal's office, but her concerns were met with practiced patience rather than action. "Miss Bennett, your father's only 1 day late. It ain't uncommon for folks to get delayed. Roads ain't safe to travel after dark," Marshal Cooper said, not looking up from his desk. "Then send someone to look for him," Sarah insisted. "He could be hurt. Can't spare men for every traveler running behind schedule." "Give it another day." Frustrated, Sarah left, determination hardening within her. She wouldn't wait while her father might be in danger. Returning to the cabin, she changed into her riding clothes, packed provisions, and checked her father's rifle. She'd find him herself. Martha caught her saddling her horse behind the barn. "Sarah Bennett, you cannot be thinking of riding out alone. I have to find him, Martha. No one else will look. The Comanche have been seen near the Austin Road." "It's too dangerous." Sarah secured her saddlebag. "I'll be careful. I'm just going to follow the road, see if there's any sign of trouble. At least take someone with you." "Who?" "The men are working and the marshal won't help. I'll be back before dark." Martha grasped Sarah's arm. "Promise me you'll turn back at the first sign of danger." "I promise," Sarah said, knowing it was a lie. She wouldn't return without her father. The trail to Austin stretched before her like a dusty ribbon through rolling hills and occasional stands of oak. Sarah rode cautiously, scanning the landscape for any sign of her father's wagon. By midday, she reached Broken Creek, about halfway to Austin. She dismounted to let her horse drink and studied the crossing for wagon tracks. The attack came without warning. Sarah heard nothing until the moment rough hands seized her from behind. She fought fiercely, screaming and struggling against her captor, but was quickly overwhelmed. A cloth was pressed over her mouth and nose, and the world faded to darkness. When Sarah regained consciousness, she was on horseback, bound and gagged, her captor's arms securing her as they rode. Panic surged through her as she realized she was being taken into Comanche territory. The warrior behind her spoke in a language she couldn't understand to others riding nearby. Through her fear, Sarah caught glimpses of 5 warriors, painted for war, their expressions impassive. As the sun began to set, they arrived at a Comanche encampment nestled in a secluded valley. Women paused in their work to watch as the warriors brought her in. Children pointed and whispered. Sarah was pulled from the horse and pushed toward a large teepee set apart from the others. Inside, she was forced to kneel before an older man whose weathered face and elaborate headdress marked him as a chief. The warrior who had captured her spoke rapidly, gesturing occasionally toward Sarah. The chief's dark eyes studied her intently before he responded with a short command. Sarah was pulled to her feet, and her bindings cut, though the gag remained. A woman entered, her face lined with age and experience, and led Sarah to a smaller teepee at the edge of the camp. Once inside, the woman removed Sarah's gag. "What do you want with me?" Sarah demanded immediately, her voice hoarse from thirst and fear. The woman regarded her silently before speaking in heavily accented English. "You are prisoner. You stay here." "My father, has he been taken too? Is he here?" Sarah asked desperately. The woman shook her head. "No white man, only you." Hope and despair mingled in Sarah's chest. If her father wasn't here, he might still be alive. Or he could be dead along the trail. She needed to escape to find him. As if reading her thoughts, the woman pointed to the entrance where a warrior stood guard. "Try to leave, you die." Night fell over the Comanche camp as Sarah sat huddled in the teepee, planning and praying. Outside, drums began to beat and voices rose in songs she couldn't understand, but that chilled her nonetheless. Whatever her fate was to be, she would face it with courage and look for any chance to escape and find her father. Dawn broke over the Comanche camp as Sarah awakened, stiff and sore from sleeping on the hard ground. The events of yesterday flooded back, and with them came renewed determination. She would not resign herself to captivity. She would observe, learn, and wait for her opportunity. The flap of the teepee opened, and the older woman from yesterday entered with a wooden bowl of food. She set it before Sarah without a word. "Thank you," Sarah said, deciding civility might serve her better than defiance. "What's your name?" The woman hesitated, then replied, "Numunu call me Tabe, means son." "I'm Sarah," she offered in return, taking a tentative bite of the unfamiliar stew. "Many call you White Flower now," Tabe said, gesturing to Sarah's pale hair. Before Sarah could respond, the woman continued, "Chief Quanah wants to see you when you eat." Sarah's stomach tightened, but she forced herself to finish the food, knowing she would need strength. "Why was I taken?" she asked as she set down the empty bowl. Tabe's expression remained impassive. "Whites take Comanche land, kill buffalo, break treaties, take children. We take back." The simple explanation held generations of conflict, but offered Sarah no comfort. She was caught in a war she hadn't started but now couldn't escape. Tiabe led her through the camp, past curious onlookers and children who ran alongside them, pointing and whispering. Warriors watched with stoic faces, their eyes following Sarah's every move. She held her head high, refusing to show fear despite the terror coiling inside her. The chief's teepee was larger than the others, decorated with painted symbols Sarah couldn't decipher. Inside, Chief Quanah sat cross-legged on a buffalo hide, his face stern and unreadable. Next to him was a younger warrior, the one who had captured her. "Kneel," Tabe instructed quietly, and Sarah obeyed, recognizing that defiance now would gain her nothing. Chief Quanah spoke and Tabe translated. "Chief asks if you are daughter of soldier or settler." "My father is a carpenter and farmer," Sarah answered truthfully. "We harm no one." The chief's eyes narrowed slightly as Tabe relayed her words. He spoke again, longer this time. "He says all whites harm by being here. Your people push us from hunting grounds, bring disease, kill our children. But he will not harm you if you work and obey. You belong to Standing Bear now." She gestured to the young warrior beside him. Sarah's blood ran cold. "Belong? I belong to no one. I'm not what you think I am. I'm not responsible for what others have done to your people." "I'm not the one you think," she murmured, then raised her voice. "My father will be searching for me. There will be soldiers." Standing Bear leaned forward, speaking for the first time in broken English. "Your father is dead. No one comes for you." The words struck Sarah like physical blows. "No," she whispered. "You're lying." Standing Bear spoke to Quanah, who nodded once and replied with a wave of his hand. Tabe gripped Sarah's arm. "Come now." Outside, Sarah struggled to compose herself. "How can he know my father is dead? It's a lie to break my spirit." Tabe's weathered face showed a flicker of sympathy. Standing Bear saw wagon attacked by raiders near creek. White man shot. He found you searching after. Sarah's knees weakened. Then where is my father's body? I don't believe you without proof. Bodies taken by raiders or wolves by now, Tabe said matter-of-factly. Better accept new life here. The days that followed settled into a rhythm of hard work and watchful waiting. Sarah was given chores alongside the Comanche women, tanning hides, gathering firewood, preparing food. Though she was a prisoner, she was not mistreated, so long as she worked without complaint. Tabe became something of a reluctant mentor, teaching her the tasks expected of her, and occasionally translating conversations around the camp. Standing Bear, her supposed owner, largely ignored her, for which Sarah was grateful. She learned from Tabe that he was Quana's nephew, a respected warrior who had earned honor in raids against white settlements and Mexican villages alike. The thought chilled her, but she revealed nothing of her feelings. At night, Sarah planned her escape. She observed the patterns of the guards, noted which horses were fastest, memorized the directions of nearby settlements. But opportunity remained elusive, and the camp was vigilantly watched. One evening, as Sarah sat outside her teepee grinding corn, a commotion arose at the edge of the camp. Warriors rode in, triumphant from a successful hunt, bringing deer and antelope for the community. Among them was Standing Bear, his copper skin gleaming with sweat, his expression proud as children ran to greet the returning hunters. He dismounted near where Sarah worked and approached her directly, something he rarely did. In his hand was a small leather pouch, which he dropped at her feet without a word before walking away. Cautiously, Sarah opened it. Inside was a small wooden cross, her mother's cross that her father had always carried. Her hands trembled as she lifted it out, confirmation of what she had refused to believe. That night, Sarah wept silently in her teepee, clutching the cross to her heart. Her father was truly gone. No one would come looking for her. She was alone in an alien world, with only her wits and determination to sustain her. Dawn came, and with it, resolution. Sarah would survive. She would learn the ways of the Comanche, gain their trust, and eventually find her way back to her own people. But first, she needed to understand. She approached Tabe as the older woman collected water from the stream. The warrior Standing Bear. Why did he give me my father's cross? Tabe glanced around before answering softly. He respects courage. Says you face death without fear when captured. This is honor among Numunu. Honor? Sarah repeated incredulously. He took me from my home. This is way of war, Tabe said simply. Better to be captive than dead. As weeks passed, Sarah's understanding of the Comanche language improved. She caught words, then phrases, finally understanding conversations around her. She kept this knowledge secret, knowing it might prove valuable. She learned that Chief Quana, unlike some tribe members, believed adaptation was necessary for survival. He had seen too many of his people die fighting the inevitable tide of white settlement. Yet he was determined to preserve their way of life, their dignity, their traditions. It was a contradiction Sarah found herself reluctantly respecting, even as she plotted her eventual departure. Standing Bear remained an enigma. He would disappear for days on raids, returning sometimes with goods, sometimes with injuries, always with the same impassive expression. Unlike some warriors who taunted her, he maintained a distance that was neither cruel nor kind. Sarah preferred it that way. Until the evening, everything changed. A band of Kiowa warriors arrived to trade and share news. Among them was a man who took immediate interest in Sarah, speaking to Standing Bear while staring at her with undisguised hunger. The conversation grew heated, voices raised until Standing Bear stepped between the Kiowa warrior and Sarah. That night, Tabe came to Sarah's teepee. Standing Bear says Kiowa offered many horses for you. He refused. Why would he refuse? Sarah asked, confused by the development. Tabe's expression was unreadable in the dim light. He says you are not for trading. You belong to this camp now. The implications of those words kept Sarah awake long into the night. Was it possible that in some strange way, Standing Bear was protecting her? Or did he simply consider her his property, too valuable to trade away? Either way, she sensed a shift in her circumstances, one that might offer new possibilities, or new dangers. 3 months into her captivity, Sarah had become a fixture in the Comanche camp. Her pale skin and blonde hair still drew stares from visitors, but to the tribe's children, she was simply White Flower, the woman who told stories and helped with the daily chores. She had learned enough of their language to communicate basic needs and understand most conversations around her, though she carefully hid the extent of her comprehension. The summer heat was giving way to autumn's cooler days. Sarah sat by the stream washing hides, her hands raw from the constant work. Nearby, Tabe worked silently, her weathered face focused on her task. Over time, the older woman had become Sarah's reluctant ally, offering guidance and occasional protection from the harsher aspects of captive life. "Winter comes soon," Tabe said, glancing at the distant mountains where dark clouds were gathering. "Camp will move south to winter grounds before snow." Sarah nodded, calculating what this might mean for her escape plans. A journey would mean chaos, movement, perhaps opportunity. How far south? 3 days' ride, near the big river. Tabe gave her a knowing look. "Thinking of running, White Flower. Many tried, many died. Winter in these lands kills unwary travelers." "I wasn't thinking anything," Sarah lied smoothly, returning to her work. Later that afternoon, as Sarah carried water back to the camp, she came upon Standing Bear training with younger warriors. Shirtless despite the cooling air, he demonstrated fighting techniques with practiced precision. Sarah paused, momentarily transfixed by the fluid grace of his movements, so at odds with the brutality they were designed to inflict. Standing Bear noticed her watching and said something to the others that made them laugh. Sarah felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment and hurried past, but not before hearing one warrior call out a teasing comment about Standing Bear's white woman. That evening, as the tribe gathered around communal fires for the evening meal, Sarah found herself seated near Quanah's family, a position of higher status than she usually occupied. She ate quietly, wondering at the change, until Standing Bear approached and motioned for her to follow him. Hesitantly, she obeyed, aware of curious eyes tracking their movement. He led her to the edge of the camp where the firelight barely reached, then turned to face her. "You learn our tongue," he said in English, surprising her. "You hide it, but I know." Sarah tensed. "I've learned a few words to help with my work." Standing Bear shook his head. "No lies. I watch you. You understand when others think you don't." She lifted her chin defiantly. "And if I do?" "Smart for captive," he conceded, "but dangerous if you plan escape." "Why would I escape?" Sarah countered, forcing a casual tone. "To die in the wilderness? As you said, my father is dead. I have nothing to return to." Standing Bear studied her face intently, as if searching for deception. "Camp moves soon, south to winter grounds. Journey is dangerous. Raiders, soldiers, other tribes. Stay close during travel." "Why are you warning me?" Sarah asked, genuinely curious. "You're the one who took me captive." A complex emotion flickered across his face. "I took you because it is our way, but I don't want your death. Not all warriors feel same." Before she could respond, he added, "Kiowa warrior still wants you. Offered 20 horses now. Quanah considers it." Sarah's blood ran cold. She had heard stories about captives traded to other tribes, about their fates being far worse than what she currently endured. "And you? Do you consider it?" Standing Bear's jaw tightened. "You are under my protection." "Your possession, you mean," she corrected bitterly. "Not same thing to you, but sometimes same result," he replied. "Either way, be ready to travel at dawn. Stay near Taabe and the women." With that, he turned and left her standing in the growing darkness, confusion and fear battling within her. If Quanah decided to trade her to the Kiowa, Standing Bear's protection would mean nothing. Yet his warning seemed genuine, almost concerned. It was a contradiction that left her unsettled. The camp broke at dawn, a coordinated chaos of dismantled teepees, packed belongings, and mounted warriors. Sarah worked alongside the women, helping to secure travois to horses, her mind racing with possibilities and dangers. The journey south would take them closer to white settlements, but also through territories where other threats lurked. As they set out, Sarah found herself positioned among the women and children in the center of the traveling party. warriors flanking the group on all sides. Standing Bear rode at the front with Quanah, his tall figure distinctive even at a distance. The first day's journey passed without incident, the tribe covering significant ground across the rolling plains. They made camp as the sun began to set, the routine of setting up temporary shelters now familiar to Sarah. She worked tirelessly, aware that proving her usefulness was her best protection. That night, as she sat by one of the smaller fires, Tabe approached with an extra blanket. "Cold comes quickly at night now," she said, draping it around Sarah's shoulders. "Standing Bear asked me to give this to you." Sarah touched the finely tanned buffalo hide, softer than the rough blanket she usually used. Why would he do that? Tabe sat beside her with a sigh. Standing Bear lost sister to raiders 2 summers ago. She was taken by Mexicans. He searched but never found her. She poked at the fire. "Perhaps he sees her ghost in you." "Is that why he protected me from the Kiowa?" Sarah asked. "Partly," Tabe admitted. "But there is more. He watches you. The way a man watches a woman, not a captive." Sarah's chest tightened at the implication. "I don't want his attention that way." "What you want doesn't matter here," Tabe said bluntly. "But if he claims you as wife instead of slave, your position in tribe changes. Better protection, better life." "I don't belong here," Sarah whispered, staring into the flames. "This isn't my world." Tabe's weathered hand covered hers briefly. "Your old world is gone, White Flower. Here now, this is your world. Choose how you live in it." The second day of travel brought new tension. Scouts reported signs of a U.S. cavalry patrol in the area, prompting Quanah to alter their route. They pushed harder, covering more ground, the pace grueling for those on foot. By mid-afternoon, Sarah's legs ached and her throat burned with thirst. When they paused briefly at a small creek, she gratefully sank to the ground, cupping water to her parched lips. A shadow fell across her and she looked up to find Standing Bear dismounted beside her. Without a word, he offered a hand to help her up, then gestured to his horse. "You ride," he said simply. "Too slow on foot." Sarah hesitated, pride warring with practicality. "I can keep up." "Not true," he countered. "Need to move faster. Bluecoats nearby." The mention of soldiers sent a conflicting surge of hope and fear through her. Soldiers meant her people, potential rescue, but they also meant danger for everyone in the tribe, including the children and elderly who had shown her kindness. Standing Bear seemed to read her thoughts. "You think they save you? Maybe. Maybe they kill you too. With all of us. Bluecoats don't always see difference." He was right, and they both knew it. Reluctantly, Sarah accepted his help onto the horse, settling behind him awkwardly. As they rejoined the moving tribe, whispers and pointed looks followed them, but Standing Bear ignored them, his focus on the path ahead. "Why help me?" Sarah asked quietly, trying to maintain distance despite being pressed against him. His response came after a long pause. "Same reason you help old woman carry water when your own arm's tired. Some things done because they should be done." They rode in silence after that, Sarah lost in thought. The man who had taken her captive, who had claimed her father was dead, was now showing her consideration she couldn't reconcile with her image of him as enemy. It left her confused, her resolve to escape conflicted by growing connections to individuals within the tribe. As the sun began to set on the second day, a rider approached from the rear, speaking urgently to Quanah. The chief immediately signaled a change in direction, leading the tribe toward a canyon to the east. Standing Bear tightened his grip on the reins, his body tensing. "What's happening?" Sarah asked. "Soldiers following, too close." He urged the horse faster. "Need to reach canyon before dark." The pace became frantic, the tribe pushing toward the shelter of the rugged terrain ahead. Sarah clung to Standing Bear as the horse galloped, fear tightening her throat. They reached the canyon entrance as the last light faded, the tribe quickly dispersing among the rocks and sparse trees to make camp with minimal fires. That night, Sarah lay awake listening to the hushed conversations around her. The warriors were organizing watches, preparing for possible confrontation. If soldiers found them, there would be fighting. People would die, perhaps her among them, caught between two worlds that both now seemed foreign. In the darkness, Sarah made a decision. When morning came, she would need to choose a side once and for all. But as sleep finally claimed her, She was no longer certain which side that would be. Dawn broke with a tension that hung over the canyon like morning mist. Sarah awoke to hushed voices and purposeful movement as warriors prepared for potential conflict. Women packed essential belongings, ready to move deeper into the canyon if necessary. Children were unusually quiet, sensing the adults' anxiety. Standing Bear appeared at her side as she rolled her sleeping mat. Scouts say soldiers camped 3 miles east, searching the area. Sarah's heart raced. This could be her chance to return to her people, yet the prospect filled her with conflicting emotions. What will you do? Quanah says we split into smaller groups, harder to track. His dark eyes studied her face. You come with my group. It wasn't a question, but Sarah sensed something beneath the command. Uncertainty, perhaps, as if he recognized this moment as the crossroads it was. And if I refuse? She asked quietly. His expression hardened. Then I tie you and carry you. Cannot leave you to lead soldiers to our people. Before she could respond, shouting erupted from the canyon entrance. A scout galloped in, his horse lathered with exertion. He spoke rapidly to Quanah, gesturing back the way he'd come. Sarah caught enough words to understand. Soldiers approaching, less than an hour away. The camp erupted into controlled chaos. Quanah issued orders, dividing the tribe into 5 groups to take different routes. Children were secured on horses with the elderly, while warriors prepared weapons and women gathered the remaining supplies. Standing Bear gripped Sarah's arm. Time to choose, White Flower. Come willingly or as prisoner. Sarah looked around at the people she'd lived among for months. Taabe loading a travois, children wide-eyed with fear, warriors grimly preparing to protect their families. These were no longer faceless enemies, but individuals she knew. Some she'd even grown to respect. I'll come, she said finally. No bindings. Relief flickered across Standing Bear's features. Get water. We travel fast. As Sarah filled water skins at the small stream running through the canyon, she heard a child crying nearby. Following the sound, she found Little Deer, a 5-year-old girl she often helped care for, huddled behind a boulder, her arm bent at an unnatural angle. What happened? Sarah asked in Comanche, kneeling beside the whimpering child. Fell from horse, Little Deer managed between sobs. It hurts. Sarah examined the arm carefully. It's broken. We need to set it before you travel. Looking around frantically, she spotted Taabe and called her over. The older woman assessed the situation quickly. No time. Soldiers come. We can't leave her like this, Sarah insisted. The pain will be unbearable on horseback. I know how to set it. My father taught me. Taabe hesitated, then nodded sharply. Do it quickly. I get binding materials. Sarah spoke soothingly to Little Deer, explaining what needed to be done. When Taabe returned with strips of hide and straight sticks, Sarah took a deep breath. This will hurt, little one, but then it will feel better. Be brave like a warrior. The child bit her lip and nodded. With quick, practiced movements, Sarah straightened the arm, aligning the broken bone as Little Deer cried out once before clamping her mouth shut. Sarah splinted the arm securely, working with efficient precision. Good girl, she praised when it was done. So brave. Standing Bear appeared behind them, his expression shifting from urgency to something softer as he took in the scene. He knelt beside Little Deer, speaking gently to her before looking at Sarah. You have healer's hands, he said. Now we must go. They moved out with the smallest of the 5 groups. Standing Bear, his younger brother, 2 other warriors, 3 women including Taabe, Little Deer, and Sarah. They took a narrow path deeper into the canyon, then up a nearly invisible trail that switchbacked up the canyon wall. From the height, Sarah could see dust rising in the distance, the approaching cavalry. The sight should have filled her with hope, but instead brought only anxiety. She no longer knew where she belonged. They traveled relentlessly through the day, taking the most difficult paths where horses would leave minimal tracks. By nightfall, they had reached a small hidden valley with a spring, one of many secret places the Comanche used during times of pursuit. As they made camp, Sarah checked Little Deer's arm. The child had been stoic throughout the journey, but exhaustion now painted her small face. The splint is holding well, Sarah told her. You're healing like a true warrior. Standing Bear watched the interaction from nearby, his expression thoughtful. After the others settled for the night, he approached Sarah, where she sat by the small shielded fire. "Why did you come?" he asked bluntly. "Could have stayed, waited for soldiers." Sarah stared into the flames. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "Maybe because I know these people now. They're not just savages from stories, they're people. And me?" The question hung between them, loaded with unspoken complexities. Sarah met his gaze. "You took me from my home. Told me my father was dead." "I spoke truth about your father," Standing Bear said quietly. "Saw him fall to raiders' bullets. Not Comanche raiders, white men, outlaws. I followed their trail, found you searching. Took you because woman alone is not safe in these lands." The revelation stunned her. "White raiders killed my father?" Standing Bear nodded. "Men who respect no boundaries, not army, not settlers, not tribe, just killers." Sarah struggled to process this new information. "Why didn't you tell me this before? Would you have believed? Or would you hate less if you knew?" His eyes reflected the firelight. Hate makes captivity easier sometimes. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as the truth of his words sank in. Hating her captors had given her purpose, a reason to escape, a way to honor her father's memory. Without that hate, the months of living among the Comanche became something more complicated, an integration into a different way of life, one with its own values and beauty. "I don't know who I am anymore," she whispered. "Not settler, not Comanche. You are Sarah," Standing Bear said simply, "and White Flower. Both true." They sat in silence until Sarah asked, "What happens now?" "The soldiers will keep searching. We go to winter grounds by different path, hide until spring." He hesitated. "Unless you wish to return to your people, I could take you near fort, leave you where soldiers find you." The offer shocked her. "You would let me go?" Standing Bear's face was solemn in the firelight. "Not what I want, but keep unwilling heart captive is wrong spirit medicine, bad for both souls." Sarah studied him, seeing beyond the warrior to the man, complex, principled in his own way, carrying burdens she was only beginning to understand. "And if I stay, what would that mean?" "You learn our ways, become numunu in heart, not just in camp." His eyes held hers. "Perhaps one day not captive, but—" He didn't finish, but Sarah understood. Not captive, but wife, family. A choice that once would have seemed impossible. But now, "I need time," she said finally, "to know my own heart." Standing Bear nodded. "Until winter grounds? Then you decide." The journey resumed at dawn, their small group working its way south and west through increasingly rugged country. Days blended together, marked by constant vigilance and hard travel. Throughout, Sarah found herself watching Standing Bear, his patience with little deer, whose arm was healing well, his fairness in dividing tasks and food, his quiet strength that the others naturally followed. On the 7th day, they reached the winter grounds, a sheltered valley with a year-round spring, stands of trees for firewood and grass for the horses. Other groups had already arrived, including Quanah and most of the tribe's children. Reunions were joyous, with news exchanged about the separate journeys and the few groups still expected. That evening, as the tribe celebrated their safe arrival with music and dancing around larger fires than they'd dared in days, Sarah stood apart, watching. The beauty of the gathering was undeniable. The rhythmic drums, the dancers' movements telling ancient stories, the community bound by shared survival and traditions. Standing Bear found her there, offering a cup of warm broth. "You stand outside circle," he observed. "Still not decided?" "I've decided," Sarah said softly, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. "I'm staying." His eyes widened slightly. "Why?" Sarah looked out at the tribe, at Tabe teaching younger women a weaving technique, at Little Deer playing with other children, her splinted arm no hindrance to her spirit, at the elders whose stories had begun to resonate with her. "Because I understand now that there are many ways to live with honor," she said. "My father taught me to be strong, to survive, to help others. I can do those things here." She turned to face him fully. "And because you offered me freedom. Only a man who respects me as a person would do that." Standing Bear was silent for a long moment, his expression intense. Then, slowly, he extended his hand to her, not to grasp or claim, but in offering. "Come to fire," he said, "not as captive, as woman who chooses her path." Sarah placed her hand in his, feeling the calluses from years of hunting and warfare, but also the gentleness in his grip. As they walked toward the central fire, she knew there would be challenges ahead, cultural differences to navigate, prejudices to overcome from both sides, a life very different from what she had once imagined. But as the tribe made space for them in the circle, as Standing Bear introduced her with her Comanche name but added her true name, Sarah, as one to be respected, she felt something unexpected settle in her heart. Not the resignation of a captive, but the peace of someone who had found her place in a world divided. Later, as stars wheeled overhead and the fire burned low, Standing Bear and Sarah sat together, speaking quietly of the future, of spring hunts and summer gatherings, of teaching and learning, of building something new between two worlds. "I'm not the one you thought I was when you took me," Sarah said, echoing words she had spoken months before. "And you're not who I thought either." Standing Bear nodded, understanding in his eyes. Two rivers meet, become one water. Cannot say any more which drop came from which mountain. Sarah smiled, feeling the truth of it in her changed heart. The journey ahead would not be easy, but it would be hers to choose, step by step, day by day. No longer captive, but free in ways she had never imagined possible.